This whole adventure began in 2008. So in 2008, I was teaching a college prep course for junior, senior high course kids with a homeschool type of a school. And I was teaching government at the time. And we get a call from a guy up in Sacramento saying, hey, we need signatures for a ballot measure that we want to put on. It's a Prop 8. It's marriage between a man and a woman. And we're networking organizations all over the state of California. Schools, churches, individuals, political groups, non-political groups who don't care. We need signatures. So we said, yeah, we can do that. So we helped get signatures to put it on the ballot. It made it on the ballot. And then election day came. And California passed Prop 8 in 2008 by almost 65%, including LA County. So then it went to a judge who said, hey, wait a minute, there's some problem with the writing of this Prop 8. We're not going to let it go through. We're going to block it. So we blocked it. So the Prop 8 people went back to the drawing board, rewrote Prop 8, fixed the language. And once again, we get the call saying we need signatures again. And so, and at that time, by the way, we didn't have computers. We did phone trees. So people across the state of California made phone calls, knocked on doors, talked to people on the street, said, hey, we want to put a ballot measure on the to be voted for, Prop 8, marriage between a man and a woman. People signed. We got plenty of signatures, or they got plenty of signatures. Once again, it went to be voted for.
Was this to be repealed?
The
homosexual legislation of
marriage? It wasn't a repeal. No, it was simply a statement that marriage is between a man and a woman.
So would that mean it would supersede the previous legislation?
You know, I don't know because I wasn't the writer of the proponent, and I don't think it made one thing or the way it was written. It was a simple statement saying marriage is between a man and a woman.
What was the purpose of this?
Well, the Prop 8 people felt that there was a diminishing between marriage being between a man and a woman. So they put it out there to see, well, what does Californians think about it? So that's the part where I played as well. I don't know if you need signatures. So we got signatures. The point here that I'm trying to make is at the time, Californians in 2008 voted yes by almost 65% that marriage is between a man and a woman. The thing I'm concerned about is that one man we are a republic. We're not a democracy. A democracy is 51%, tell 49%, shut up and sit down. Mm-hmm. The founders of this country formed a republic,
yes,
which is self-governing. We have the right to choose. We may not all agree, but we have the right to choose. My concern was that almost 65% of Californians, including LA County, the largest county in the state and larger than all but 5 states, voted almost 65%. Yes, marriage is between a man and woman. But one judge said, first, I don't like it. Rewrite it. They rewrote it. Second time it goes again, almost 65%. This time the same judge simply said, I don't like it. And he blocked it. Now, what concerned me is that's not how a republic works. When 65% of Californians vote for something, it should not be that one man can say, I don't like it. I'm a judge and I'm blocking it.
This recently happened, correct?
2008.
No, I mean something similar to that happened this week, correct?
I don't know.
They had the Justine Maxwell. They had her testimony from in her depositions to come out, and it was voted on, and then the judge that was superseding it said no, he's putting a block to it because he is wanting it out.
So see, it sounds like it's a similar type of thing. And
yeah.
The question is, can one judge supersede the vote of citizens, 65% of citizens? That is what not only prompted me to say, wait, what's going on? And I was involved in politics. I mean, I was barely registered to vote, not until I was 28 years old. So politics wasn't a big thing for me. So it was never an issue of politics. It was an issue of the country we live in is a constitutional republic based on citizen self-governance, beginning with the possibility, beginning with the fact that we have the right to vote. We have the right to choose. If the mechanism we use to vote is corrupt, then do we really have a republic? And our research shows that California is not functioning as a republic. It's functioning as what's called an oligarchical democracy. Again, democracy is a form of government where 51% tell the other 49% to shut up and sit down. And don't Californians not feel like they're being told to shut up and sit down?
That's exactly what's happening.
That's exactly, because this is not a republic.
From COVID to immigration to every single thing that you have an opinion on, it's shut the hell up.
Right.
And we already know what way it's going to turn.
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on.
Right.
It's only one way and one way only.
Right. And that's because the people who are quote unquote elected to office now, they're not really elected to office. They know that we the people cannot remove them. And once you are in a position of power and authority and you know you can't be removed, you don't care what anybody says. So the motivation for forming Election Integrity Project in December 2010 began back in 2008 with this getting signatures for a ballot measure and finding that Californians voted 65% yes. Whether you agree with the 65% or not is not the issue. The issue is one man, one judge said no. Well, interestingly enough, the next year, 2009, the whole country erupted with the Tea Party movement. Now, the Tea Party movement were laughed at and mocked, and that's what opponents do when they want to quash their opposition, is belittle them, call them names, tell them they're stupid, they're crazies. Well,
that was the thing with the Tea Party. If you're a Tea Party, you are crazy. You're a conspiracy theorist.
Right.
And if you think it, I mean, I remember what I was feeling when that was going on.
Yeah.
I was like, these guys are making more sense. These guys are making a lot of sense.
The Tea Party view?
Yeah. And then, you know, you start trying to have a conversation with somebody, but they become tribal, and then you're stupid. You know, that's how it works.
Exactly. Well, 2009 is when the Tea Party erupted, and that was because TARP was passed, and people were saying, wait a minute, why are the taxpayers bailing out big business and big banks?
Bullshit.
And that's why the Tea Party erupted. Now, interestingly enough, and this is, in my opinion, this is not coincidental, but starting in 2008 was a great connection, building of coalitions across the state of California. In order to get those signatures and get people out to vote, there had to be a coalition of schools and churches and political groups and non-political groups, and people had to work together in this gigantic state to get it done. So when the Tea Party erupted, 2,400 Tea Parties started in California, from Siskiyou County all the way down to San Diego County, the Bay Area, the Central Coast, along the border of Arizona and Nevada, and all in the 9 southern counties. And I ended up accidentally starting one because I was so angry at what happened with the Prop 8 that I started following what's going on with the Tea Party and watching businesses close in Santa Clarita and saying, what the heck's going on? So I was on a website, the American Family Association, and they said, we need people to help. So I said, I'll help. So I signed up on the American Family Association to help. And then they say, we have a new Tea Party in Santa Clarita Valley. Call into Paine. And I said, whoa, hold on. And then 5 minutes later, they say, and we have a second one in Santa Clarita, Brenda Cox. And 5 minutes after that, I get a call. It's Brenda Cox. She said, hey, I was just signing up to help. I said, so was I. So he said, let's have coffee and figure out what to do. Santa Clarita, we had a rally. 1,750 people showed up for a rally in Santa Clarita Valley saying no to TARP, no to citizens being forced to bail out big business and big banks. And this was typical of what happened all over the state of California. So all through 2009, and going into 2010, the Tea Parties, the 2,400 Tea Parties, began to build coalitions in the regions of the state where they were at. So in 2010, I started a coalition of groups of citizens, whether it was a Tea Party or a taxpayer association, whatever. 9 southern counties, we called it SoCal Liberty Coalition. And we began to meet every 2 weeks in Pasadena to compare notes. Because through the Tea Party movement, we in the southern counties learned that the Central Valley, which once upon a time was the breadbasket of the world, and not just of the country, but the water was being shut off to the farmland by Sacramento. And because of the Tea Party, we were communicating with each other for the first time, the northern counties, the southern counties, the central counties. And we learned that what happened is that the Sacramento, the government, brought in this little smelt fish, little tiny smelt fish, to the Bay Area.
And this is what Trump was
Sacramento
talking
area,
about during the election.
That's correct.
the
Tim.
smelt.
The little fish.
this-
The little fish.
Go ahead, cook.
That's the smelt. They're little
The
tiny.
smelt.
So they bring them in. They're not indigenous to the Sacramento
They're not.
area.
It's really a loser fish, Tim. If we really want to talk about it. It's this fish. This fish is so horrible.
Is it big?
It's not even. It's so tiny.
Is it like your hands?
My hands are huge. They're so huge. They're huger than your dad's head.
Told you, Dad.
But anyway, yeah, the stupid fish.
The stupid fish. Well, the way it works is if the Endangered Species Act was at the root of why they brought the fish in. The Endangered Species Act basically says if a little critter can be kept alive at a certain number, not too small, not too big, but if they're kept alive for 7 years, but it doesn't grow too big, then it is considered endangered.
Even if it's not indigenous to the.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't make any sense.
That should be
That
whole
should be
You
the-
literally
that
bring
should be-
like woolly mammoths and bring them there and just say, well, that's the rule now.
That's how it is.
Here in California,
Yeah,
so fuck
technically you
off.
could. Yeah,
What a-
Because that's pretty much what happened.
That's so dumb.
It's as if they bring in a bunch of woolly
Right.
mammoths and he's stepping on the line to bring the water over there.
Yeah.
Well, you can't touch the woolly mammoth because woolly mammoths are fucking endangered.
right.
dude.
Too bad, too sad.
Yeah.
So
You want to be a dickhead? Kill the woolly mammoth. Go ahead. I dare you.
I'm not doing that.
That's it. Yeah. Well, they didn't kill the fish either. They kept it alive 7 years, and because they kept it alive and they kept it from getting too large.
Who's behind this?
There was someone in Sacramento, so that there was an organized effort to do it, and we've never got to the bottom of where that is. But we do know that is what happened. Once the Endangered Species Act determined that the smelt was endangered, they're able to take control of the land or the water, and that's how they took control of the water going down to the farmland. So they
power.
had to spend. They decided, we have to save the smelt, so we have to now send the water from the dams into the ocean to save the smelt.
Is
And by the way,
fish good to eat, Dad? Is it good eating? Yeah.
Like he said, Erie, not California. Erie. There's two things, Tim.
yeah,
Not the California loser smell. That's a different smell.
well, the fact is too, they keep them alive now in fisheries. They're not even in the bay, in the ocean.
That's so.
They're in
that's so
fisheries, but they're
ass
still running
backwards.
water from the dams into the ocean. So it appeared to us in the southern counties, we did not know this, but we were so shocked at what Sacramento was doing. We said, it seems to us that they're trying to prevent us from growing our own food. Now, call us conspiracy theorists, but
Oh, we
why
love that
would the
here.
government stop the water to flow down into the farmlands? So the SoCal Liberty Coalition, we met together, and one day we said, we need to check our counties in the 9 southern counties and find out if the counties are doing anything like that. Well, we learned that in San Diego County, they took a small river. There's a whole area of San Diego County where there's orchards, orange orchards, family owned. And they tried to grow salmon in there. So salmon, San Diego. Okay. It didn't work. And so that's why
In San Diego.
they weren't able to control the Colorado River.
Going upstream.
But the fact that we were seeing the same pattern, Ventura County, the issue was desalination of water, and they couldn't have enough money to desalinate the ocean water to water the farmlands, so they taxed Santa Clarita.
So
pay
it's
for it.
it's constantly they're constantly putting roadblocks in front of
Right.
agriculture.
Yeah, and it's not just agriculture, but it was
In this instance.
In this instance, yeah, and there were other things like that because the Tea Party allowed the citizens across this giant state to compare notes. We began to see patterns that we knew could not be coincidental. So by 2010, in SoCal Liberty Coalition, we said, you know what? Who are these people that are in Sacramento? Who's voting for them? And how come we don't know anybody who's voting for them? So nobody knew how the system worked. So we said, 2010, we better figure out how the system worked. And we decided to get behind a candidate in San Diego County, Nick Popovich. He was an Iraqi vet. Everyone loved him. He had 400 volunteers. So he had volunteers from the Democrats, Independents, the Republicans. They didn't care. But he
What
was
side of the aisle was he on?
he was running as a Republican.
Oh, he's fucked.
But he didn't. Nobody cared. He had. I mean, that's when you know a candidate's
Does
good.
he win?
He should have won by a landslide. All the polls said he was going to win by a landslide. They bought T-shirts for all 400 volunteers. And when we knew there was a problem with the election system, was 10 minutes before they called that race in 2010, there were media at his headquarters. And one of them asked his campaign manager, how does Nick feel about losing? And he said, what are you talking about? The polls all say it's going to be a landslide. And by the way, it's still not even 8 o'clock. The race hasn't closed yet. The journalist said, well, wait. At 8 o'clock, the race was called on the dot. Not for Nick Popovich, for Filner, one of the most corrupt politicians in Sacramento County. And that's when everyone knew something is wrong with the election process. Now, in 2020, SoCal Liberty Coalition, we decided to go have a look-see. We didn't know how the system worked. And so I was saying, we're going to follow Nick Popovich. We'll see what goes. And lots of us went down, took turns in San Diego County, and we observed the election process, because in California, we have the right to do that. And so we just were looking. We didn't know what we were looking for. We weren't trained in anything, but we wanted to see what worked. What we noticed in San Diego County is there were trolleys and buses coming in from Mexico, bringing people to vote in the polling locations. And back then, it was just one day, one polling location. And so at some of the polls, we started to ask the supervisor at the poll.
Do we have any objective evidence for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We've documented it. We created reports and all that because we were concerned about what we were seeing, and we didn't know. So we'd ask the supervisor, that's fine. Why are you having people coming from Mexico to vote here? They said, well, because a lot of people live in Mexico. It's housing's cheaper. They live in America, so they take trams and trolleys to vote. Okay. Well, and there were several other things we saw through the 9 southern counties. So when Nick Popovich lost, 4 of us from SoCal Liberty Coalition decided to call an election law attorney and ask about some of the stories. We started a Yahoo group. We told everybody who's out observing, right in the Yahoo group, what did you see? So we could see if we could create a picture of how the system works. Because we all know you're supposed to go vote, but how does the system work?
Sure.
So after looking at that, we called an election law attorney up from Sacramento, and we said, we're really concerned about what we saw in the 9 southern counties, especially this thing in San Diego, but there's a lot of issues that were of concern. After 45 minutes of talking with her, she said, everything you've described to me is not legal. And we were floored. How could this stuff not be not legal? She said, well, there are no laws against it. And so we said, well, how do you fix this? She said, the politicians and the parties cannot fix this. They can't deal with elections
Because they don't want to.
with fraud, because it'll become political, and so it won't get fixed. She said, if it's going to be fixed, it has to be done by citizens. It has to be nonpartisan, because everyone has the right to vote, of course, and it has to be based on integrity, because you will be challenged. And so after talking with her, the 4 of us got off the phone and we asked that age-old question. Well, if not us, then who? If not now, then when? And that's when we contacted a lawyer and talked about how do we start an organization, maybe a nonprofit, because none of us had money to start a company like that. And so December 28, 2010, we formed Election Integrity Project, but not as a nonprofit, because at the time the IRS would not give us nonprofit status, because what's her name wasn't giving anybody of a conservative type of a group nonprofit status. So the lawyer said, you guys wanting to make money? We said, that's not the point. We're not trying to make money. We're trying to restore integrity to the process and find out why it's a mess. He said, then start a C Corp out of Wyoming and get to work on your research. Now, the interesting thing is the people who started it, one was a woman by the name of Ellen Swenson. She's a brilliant analyst. And then myself and 2 others who didn't stay long. But we went ahead and started 2011, the very first month, January 2011. We set up a Facebook page and a Twitter page. And we decided, let's put it out there and tell everybody what we saw in the southern counties. Because maybe someone saw something like this in the central, in the northern counties. Let's see how far and wide this goes. So we started to tell the story on our Twitter and Facebook pages, and immediately Facebook shut us down. And Twitter shut us down.
What year is this?
2011. January 2011.
That's odd, because, all right, so we have what we have in 2020, any talk of it, period, it was shut down.
Right.
You lose your page. In 2016, any talk of that was amplified. This is not me talking shit. This is actual truth. These are from Twitter and Facebook data.
Right.
And then also, Um, any talk of it in 2024 after the election was amplified as well. I think that's telling. That's a telling sign. Okay, go ahead.
Right, but 2011 shut down.
That's weird.
So we knew.
So it looks to me from my point of view, this is how I'm taking it. I'm not a conservative, but it looks like they're attacking conservatives. Is that fair? Is that a fair analysis?
I mean, it looks like that way from.
Is that the optics?
Well,
I'm not saying that's the truth. But is that the optics?
trajectory is looking like it's going that
Okay.
way?
and I think also
You don't think that's what the optics are? Okay.
well, and they're also shutting down the message. That's how we saw it.
They're silencing the voice.
We thought we identified something that we saw something we weren't supposed to see. They didn't anticipate Californians weren't going to get out and start looking at this stuff. So what we did, since we knew we were going to be shut down using email blasts and that type of thing, I had the contact information of the 2,400 Tea Party groups because we were communicating together. And so one of the leaders of the statewide Tea Party group, I called her and I asked if it was okay for me to call them and ask if they would be willing to start an election integrity type of organization. I had been watching a YouTube of Catherine Engelbrecht from Texas. And in Texas, they were observing the election process and identifying all manner of issues with the machines and different things. And I thought, if they can do it in Texas, why can't we do it here? And so in January, I actually had flown to Texas. I called Catherine Engelbrecht after the issue happened with Nick Papadish. She actually answered. And I talked to her about what they were doing in Texas. And I said, can we do this in California? She said, every state can do it, but they have to study the laws of their state. Oh, we were willing to do that. And she invited me to come down to one of their trainings in Texas so I could see what they do. So I did that. And when I went there, what was amazing to me is people had come from all over the country. They were calling her from all over the country after the 2010 election saying something happened in each of their states, and they were concerned about it. So that's where I met a guy by the name of Jay, who started Voter Integrity Project in North Carolina. We started Election Integrity Project in California. Jay Delancey, he was retired military, and we began a commitment of comparing notes on the East Coast, West Coast to see if there was.
So
a
when
difference.
you're in 2012, what happens then? What do you guys notice any irregular? Because I don't have a knowledge of that. 2012.
Okay, we do, and we have it documented, and it's
Did you guys find some
we
things?
did. In
Find
fact,
some irregularities?
In fact, the documents I gave you shows part of what we did in 2013. So 2011, let me just take you one more step in 2011 because we had to build the Titanic, so to speak, and sail it at the same time in order to be ready to observe the 2012 election. So because we couldn't use social media or anything like that, I began driving through the state. My kids were already grown. My husband worked a lot. I had a little border collie puppy, and so I took her with me, and we traveled throughout the state. We met with citizen groups all over the state. I was able to call the Tea Party groups, but because of 2008, I also was able to contact people from that network. And every group that I went to and spoke with about, here's what we saw in the southern counties. We don't know what it means, but we're concerned. We're going to do in California what Catherine Engelbrecht did in Texas. We want to have a real observation program in time for 2012 and see if we can't truly identify what's happening in the state of California in as many counties as possible. And I had a sign-up sheet, and I said, if you think you want to be part of it, just come over and sign up, and we'll get the training put together. We'll talk to lawyers, whoever puts it together. We'll figure it out. And in every group, whether it was 25, 50, 75, or 100 people in the group, half to 100% of the people signed up. So by the time we got to 2012, we had our first training program, and we trained 2,400 citizens to observe the election process in 21 counties, beginning with the Bay Area. We had one up in Shasta County and all the big counties, the Santa Clara County and down the south. The number of counties represented in our first time out represented 85% of the population of the state of California. So we knew if we could get that, and we weren't just getting a little smattering, if we could observe in the counties that represent 85% of the citizens or the voters of California, we could get a real idea of what the California election system looked like. And so we did. So we worked, Susan Morse and I, and Ruth Weiss and Ellen Swenson worked together to put together the first training program. Susan and I met with lawyers and said, what do you guys use to train your poll watchers? And so they gave us their manual, and we took it from there, and we built something for poll observers. Watchers are usually people who watch on behalf of a party. We were nonpartisan. We don't care who's messing with the election process. Democrat, Republican, Independent, we don't care. You're in trouble. We're going after you.
Sure.
Because it doesn't matter. We all have the right to vote, and nobody has the right to mess with the system. So we put the program together. It was a 4 to 5 hour training, because we taught our volunteers what state law said, what federal law says, how they interact together, what the procedures are in the counties, and what's supposed to be happening when they're managing the elections. So our teams went out knowing what to look for. The amazing thing is, first thing in the morning on Election Day 2012, we started getting calls to our headquarters from poll observers across the state in all 21 counties. And what they all noticed is, first thing in the morning, as soon as the polls opened, people were coming to the polls and taking down what's called a street index. And in those days, you voted in person, and you knew where to vote because you were assigned a polling location depending on where you live. And hanging outside the door of every polling location is a street index, or was back then. The street index had the name of the voter and the address. And so people were coming to the polls and taking down the street index and sitting on the ground and writing a name and an address on a piece of paper, a 3x5 card. And the interesting thing is, the supervisors at these polling locations didn't know they had the authority to say, you can't do that. Those have to stay hanging, because the purpose of the street index is the voter could come and say, is this where I'm supposed to vote? Is my name there? But nobody stopped them. Every county where this was happening, nobody stopped them. And our teams were calling us, and we then would call the registrar of voters of that county and say, we got a problem. Polling location number XYZ. You got people who are taking down the street index and writing down name and addresses on 3x5 cards or pieces of paper or whatever they have. And the registrars of voters did nothing to stop it either. And that was very curious to us. But it was a pattern, and we were looking for patterns. So throughout the day, then we had usual stuff hanging that were happening through the election day. But then about 3 to 4 o'clock, we started getting bombarded with calls from our observers that were long lines of people were coming to vote in those polling locations, and in their hand a piece of paper, a 3x5 card with the name of a voter and an address. And in that day, back in 2012, there was a law in the books that protected voters from being imposters, someone voting for them.
Yeah.
So the way that worked is, if I were going to go vote, I would go to the first clerk, and I had to say my name out loud. My name is Linda Paine. The clerk, by law, had to say, Linda Paine, I see you, here it is, check it off. They repeat it back. Then I go to the next clerk. I say my address, I live at, and that clerk says, okay, they repeat it back, you live at, and then they mark it off, check, you're there. And then the third clerk has the book where you sign in. And we learned that the signature in that sign-in book is never checked against the voter application signature, so anybody could sign it. So that's what's supposed to happen. So make sure that they know that if I can't say my name, or if I don't know my address, there's a problem here. But in 2012, as people lined up with a piece of paper and a 3x5 card in their hand,
Well, anybody could just take the name and the address.
they went right
Anyone
there.
could just do it.
And that's what we saw, and that's what we documented. And they would hand the piece of paper to the clerk, who said nothing. The clerks weren't trained to repeat things back. They weren't trained in the law. For some reason, purposely, they weren't trained. They didn't know that they were supposed to ask the name.
So is this, do you believe that, because it seems like if you want, you can just make the excuse that everything that's happening here is due to lack of training.
Well, almost. It appeared to us that in 21 county, 2,400 observing in 24 counties, documenting the same pattern, appeared to us that this was not by accident. Someone put a plan in place to make it possible to impersonate voters, and that's exactly what happened. In those counties, from about 4 to 6, people coming in line after line after line, simply handing a piece of paper, never said one word. The clerk looked for the name, passed the piece of paper to the next clerk, looked for the address, and this person went right down, signed the book, and voted.
Jeez.
At 6 o'clock, we started getting calls from voters who said, well, hey, I just went to vote and they told me I already voted. I didn't already vote.
I've heard
And
this too.
so what happens? They say, oh, no worries. You can vote with a provisional ballot. The fact is,
Wait, hold on. Did you say don't worry, you can vote again?
well, you can vote with a provisional ballot.
So if someone, so how does this work? If someone already voted and they're trying to vote, but they said you already voted, oh, don't worry,
Don't worry, shut up.
you can vote again. Here you can vote now.
Wink, wink. You can vote.
What?
Yeah, and that's because they wanted them
And
to
no accountability.
no accountability. But here's how provisional voting works: a provisional ballot can only be counted if, in double checking, if they see that that person did not already vote,
yeah.
but that name did vote. Someone
it'll
came in
always say-
and voted that name.
And so your vote doesn't count.
Your vote doesn't count. But what happened, though, is we checked with LA County. They counted the provisional ballots and the
Anyway.
actual voting ballots because we went and said we want to see an audit of what you're doing there.
Wow.
Here's what happened is in 2012, and Pew Research Center has a report on it. In 2012, California cast 40% of all provisional ballots nationwide. And we think some organized effort was testing the fence, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They want to see
How much you can get?
two things we think they want to see based on the rest of the years that we've been documenting this. Two things. One, can we get, if we can get enough ballots into an envelope and processing of the envelope, can we change things? And can we get the registrars to not train? Can we get something in place? Can we get a plan in place? Now, I know it sounds, oh, you're crazy, you're making up stories, whatever, but it's documented. And not only is it documented, but we documented this happening in 2012, and in the special election in Central Valley in 2013, and in the 2014 election. And by the time we'd gotten that much documented with hundreds and hundreds of incident reports signed under penalty, our incident reports are designed by a retired law enforcement who said when they're going to take an incident and make it through the courts, it's got to be filled out correctly. Our incident reports look like the same as law enforcement do. And they have at the bottom, I declare under penalty of perjury that everything stated here is true and accurate. And we turned those in and turned them into reports. By 2014, we were EIP then, Election Integrity Project. We were not a nonprofit. We became the nonprofit in 2017. But back then, we were so concerned that we were documenting 3 elections in a row of this kind of thing happening, more and more provisional ballots, more and more voter impersonation, that we provided our evidence to a California committee to the U.S. Civil Rights Division. Every state has a committee that is responsible to communicate to the Civil Rights Department under the Department of Justice if citizens in their state feel that their civil rights are being violated. So we provided our evidence to the California committee, and we said we believe Californians are losing the ability to choose who they want to represent them because the system can be manipulated. And so after 9 months of looking at our evidence, they said, we agree with you. There's a problem here. And so they called for a civil rights hearing on August 28th, 2015. They held it in LA County. And so preparing for that hearing, we had 82 of our volunteers come down and testify, some as far as Trinity County, up north, little tiny Trinity County, incredibly corrupt county. We had our coordinator for Trinity County was a retired vet amputee, and they were so hostile to observers, where Californians have the right to observe. But he was in a wheelchair trying to observe and see the processing of those vote by mail ballots. And they told him, you have to get out of here, get out of here. And of course, he said, I have the right to stay. And they pushed him over in his wheelchair to get him out. So the hostility against observers was throughout the state. They did not want us watching what they were doing and processing these ballots.
Is the end goal here to get to be would you consider the end goal here to just be bulldogs and go after these dudes?
No, it's bigger.
Or is it to get voter ID?
No, bigger.
Bigger than that. Okay. So just a voter ID. This is from Politico. that the only states that Kamala Harris lost were those without voter ID, or
One.
that she won, yeah, without voter ID. I think that's an interesting fact.
The federal, yeah. Well, I think what Linda is also saying is that through the process of what's happening, they're unearthing more suspicious.
I mean, obviously, it's building up.
Right.
Like you can see throughout the story as it's going, and we already know the cloud that hangs over 2020.
Oh my
in
God.
the federal election, not just the federal election, but also the
Yeah.
California elections.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. We have on our website, we have put together as like a library for everyone who wants to know what's happening, who wants to know the laws. So on our website, we have tabs and we have boxes with information on it. We have documented everything we've done. We have a document up there called the Golden State Agenda, the blueprint to use legislation to control elections. It's a long title, but it's the Golden State Agenda. In the Golden State Agenda, we have the year everything began. Now, from federal law to state law, this all began with federal law when the National Voter Registration Act, National Voter Registration Act was passed by Congress. It's also called the Motor Voter. And during that time, those laws began to impact the states. And one of the ways they impacted the states is they did not allow the states to remove ineligible voters from the voter rolls unless they went through all these steps, to where it takes about 8 years to really take someone who's ineligible on the active list, send them cards, send them a second postcard. Do you want to vote? You really want to? You sure don't want to vote? And if they don't answer, then they finally eventually move them to inactive. But they can't remove them yet. They have to send the cards again. You sure you want to vote? You want to vote? I mean, it's a process that takes 8 years. Bottom line, in 2017, we sent out a press release because we've been researching the voter roll since 2011 as well at the county and state level. And we have press releases, and they're on our website. You can do a tab down. You can see all the press releases and the reports we've done. But we put a big press release out saying this was the 2016 election was a big problem. Here were problems. Here are the numbers. And I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. I'd have to bring it up and show you. But that press release generated an interest from Judicial Watch. So Judicial Watch called me and said, wait, what are you talking about here? What did you guys identify? And after 2 conversations, he wanted to know how we do our work, who do we work with, how do we protect the integrity of the work, where do we store it? And after 2 conversations, I explained to him that we only use the voter rolls from the Secretary of State's office or from the Registrar's office. We don't have anyone else do the work for us. Our own team does it. Ellen Swenson is brilliant. Our DAG team, they're data analysts. So we buy the voter. You have to qualify. We buy the data. We analyze the data. We compare it against the Department of Health records. We compare it against address changes, that type of thing, and then we put the report out. And in the report, it showed that the voter rolls in California were a tangled mess. There were more voters than voted. In fact, on our website, I have 2 letters that we sent to the Secretary of State from 2020, and also the work we did against it 2022. And we have live links so you can actually see what's in those
There's
reports.
more votes than voters?
More votes than voters. So in 2017, that's why Judicial Watch called and said, okay, how do you do your work? So he was convinced after 2 conversations that
do
we're
we have
solid.
do we have a smoking gun here?
We
like,
do.
No matter what, like, this is the end all be all for this specific, like, because I'm thinking, like, you're showing a lot of, like, little things here and there, but let's just be honest. We have so much evidence on so many different people. Like, unless you have the smoking gun, it almost doesn't count. I mean, look at the situations with Jeffrey Epstein, for instance. So what would you consider the top 2 pieces of evidence that there is shenanigans afoot? And do we have any direction to who these people are? I have it right here.
We do. There is a diagram, or a picture I show you. It's called the
I'll put it up in the edit. I'll put it in there.
transformation. The transformation. So the picture. Keep going. It's a
oppressive
one
weight.
more.
Oh, yeah,
transformation.
Oppressive. That's how it happens right now. So you'll see 3 columns. It shows the oppressive transformation, from a republic to an oligarchical democracy. So democracy, again, 51% tell the 49% to shut up and sit down. An oligarchy is a group of people who make all the decisions. The way that you go from a republic where we the people choose to an oligarchical democracy is you use these three pillars to create a system that can be manipulated so that we don't have elections. Instead, there are selections. And first you'll see it's legislation. They have to pass legislation to put in place an election system that can be manipulated. So a one-day election, paper ballots, you vote, you put your ballot in the box, nobody processes anything, you don't have chaos, you have an election. But when you move to vote by mail ballots for 60 days, you got to process them. We've documented over the years that we've done this, how to manipulate a vote by mail ballot, beginning with signature verification. Our observers document that sometimes they don't have a signature and they pass it through anyway. So there's just we can give you lots of reports, but you probably don't have time to tell you all of it. But the bottom line is everything we have is documented with firsthand observation, signed under penalty of perjury.
How do we determine that this is a truth?
You look at the evidence.
Okay, and that's what I'm saying. Is there a piece of evidence that's just like undeniable? Like this dude got caught stuffing the ballot with 100,000 votes or something like that.
Yeah, there are lots of people like that, but that's not the problem. The problem is bigger than that. If you look at a website, go to a website called The Future of California Elections. There's some of your culprits in that organization. They have even on their mission statement that they are DEI. They think elections need to be equitable rather than ensuring that all citizens have the right to vote.
Do these guys have some sort of influence?
They do. They were part. They have a coalition. In fact, I'm just trying to break it down. In 2020, here's where they had huge influence. In 2020, before with COVID, we had emergency regulations. And 2 years before that, Alex Padilla was Secretary of State at the time. 2 years before that, legislators passed a bill that said, we're doing more and more vote by mail ballots, and they've got to have some kind of standardization so that all the counties don't do their own thing, their own policy and procedures, but they all start to process them the same. And so they passed that requirement had to happen, but by 2020, Padilla hadn't done it yet. And members of this coalition wrote a letter to Alex Padilla and said, you got to get this done and you need to do it now. And in fact, here's what you should do. And in fact, we are submitting all this to Congress next week. Here's what you should do. So Alex Padilla passed an emergency regulations, many of them in 2020, following the lineup that this coalition of people, many of them who are part of the Future of California Elections, and in those regulations, he allowed for ballot stuffing. So you want to make sure everyone could vote. So if I didn't have if I wanted to vote, I could mark it on a piece of paper who I want to vote for, and I could put it in Isaac's ballot. In fact, Isaac could have 5 ballots in his ballot envelope, and I just had to sign it on the outside. The problem is the procedures that are required to ensure that the ballot inside belongs to the voters. They have to know who the name is, whose ballot it is. You can't just look at signatures on the outside and determine if it matches the ballot on the inside, because there's a mix of them. Yeah. We sent letters to the Secretary of State opposing these emergency regulations. We provided all this, like I say, we're providing this to Congress in our request that Congress pass a federal comprehensive election integrity bill so that all states have to follow the same requirements. And what we've included is 17 points that will eliminate all of the holes in the election process that we've identified and documented over the last 15 years. We're now in our 15th year of doing business.
So, I mean, would it be easier to transfer to AI or online situation, or you think that would be more easily manipulated as well?
Yeah, it has to go back to simple. The more points of entry there are, the more opportunity to manipulate the
And
outcome.
this is also going to when Tim kind of discussed it is the voter ID and having that
Yeah.
kind of like established that this is.
Right.
And honestly, when I voted this last time, I got so dumbfounded when I went to the courthouse. They didn't. I was just like, "Hey, I'm here for vote." Okay, cool. There is no. I could have just been whoever and just did this, and it was just like, dude, so you don't. And I had my ID coming out. Like, oh, we don't need your ID. I'm like, how do you not know who is me? That I'm voting. Like, I was just taken aback. I'm thinking like, you don't need to know who I am.
It's very loosey goosey,
Way
and
too.
there's in like it seemed in like in this thing, the oppressive weight of transformation, they are one of the pillars is just pretend to be a dumbass. I mean I'm
you
just
read that? That's what I read.
No, I'm
too.
just interpreting it.
Yeah.
Just pretend to be dumb and we can get away with it.
Yeah. Just, like,
One of the
ignorance.
things I saw this documentary, I don't know, a couple years back, and they had talked about it was in the same vein as voter. They were talking about how they believe the 2020 election had a lot of abnormalities. One of the things that they spoke about is when we have they did a triangulation of cell phone data in corresponding video with each and every single person that voted. So they would go to cell phone towers and they would get all the towers that are connected to every voting place within 50 miles of in any direction. And any one IP that shows up on all of them, they would pull them. And then they would pull let's just say this IP goes, 1023 on 12 or 11-2 to vote, right? So you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the cell phone data is telling you when this person's at the voting registration box, but they're also matching all the voter boxes around. So they end up finding out that there are 70 different people that were putting in over 100, 500, 10,000 ballots in one box or throughout the boxes in the area. And they would then they went and found them and then found out they were getting money from a shell corporation that was funded by George Soros. And it's not, whatever, dude, call me conspiracy. Well, I don't give a shit. But the truth is the truth. The truth is that there's one person, there's multiple persons, but there's this one person who was caught by security camera and cell phone data that said that they were at this spot and they were at multiple different locations. Just stuffing the shit out of these boxes. And listen, I'm not saying it was stolen or anything like that, but I'm saying that is true. No matter how you put it, that piece of data is 100% factual, Ice.
Yeah,
that's not made up.
And I think what you're saying is also going to Linda's point, where they have, there's links here you can go and fact check that it's building up a case where, like she said, there's more votes than there are voters. So how does that add up? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, this is, if you really look into it, and from the story that you kind of told me, it was kind of just like, this is how it goes. No one's going to tell you anything, and this is the way it goes until things don't make sense. And it's like, wait a minute, this doesn't add up. And it's taken until, was it 2010 or something? How long have they been doing this?
So my next question is, what does change look like? Let's say that we're through the other side. What does it look like?
So we believe after 14 years, as of last year, 14 years of documenting the entire election process, all three of those pillars, the voter roll research, the legislation that the state legislators pass, and the policies and procedures that the counties use to implement the state laws and the federal laws, all combined, it is just full of points where voter fraud is taking place. In fact, our most recent research was the final cherry on the top. Is in 2024 we ordered from VoteCal the 2022 certified election. We said, we know that in 2024, California flipped at least 4 seats. And so our data analyst group said, what's happening now is we're going into 2024, an incredibly important presidential election. Let's see what the Secretary of State certified. And so we ordered from VoteCal the snapshot of that data that she sent to Congress as certified for who voted in 2022. Normally, when we order data from the Secretary of State, we get it in 10 days. On this order, it took them 4 months. So when we finally got the data, our analysts began to
Oh shit!
to-
I see it. I just read it right now.
you see it on the website.
No, I see it on the
brochure.
the notes.
So I don't know if you have it on there. So what our team when they started looking at the data, started analyzing what they saw is what Secretary of State sent to Congress was one number, but what was actually there when we researched it is that the 2022 election reveals 43,624 more votes and over 22,000 more voters than the numbers certified by the California Secretary of State, calling into question the validity of the certification of the 2022 election. And on our website, we've included those reports. They're live linked. You can read the letter we sent to the Secretary of State. You can click on the link to the reports that show the methods of voting.
Do you think it's possible that there's illegal aliens?
Oh, no, it's not. We know and
I'm
have
just trying
known.
to give them a way out, man.
What-
because
what-
it's fucking treason.
Well, we do know that. We do. Well, let me just say this: we know
It is
that
treason.
It's
we
treason.
know it is treason, but we also know that they are non-citizens are being added to the voter rolls with and without their knowledge because federal law, the National Voter Registration Act, Section 7, requires every state to have their government agencies provide a voter registration application to everyone who comes in for help. So
But it just has to be state, right? It's not
no,
supposed to
every
be
single
federal.
state. It's a federal law.
No, but
that
voting. It's only voting state, but not federal, correct? If
What-
you're illegal, you can't vote federal.
Well, the thing is that they don't know they're voting. So let's say they come across the border.
right.
Let's say they didn't come across the border. Maybe they're here with a green card. It doesn't matter. Let's say it's an American. When you go to HUD housing, food stamps, Social Security, and what's the other card? Medicare.
You can get those.
When you go in
numbers.
to ask for help, federal law requires those agencies to give a voter registration application to that person. Period. They have to. But federal law neglected to say, and they need to show proof of citizenship. They don't ask. The federal law gives them
It's this whole thing of being stupid again, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I'm
Being
retarded.
absolutely. So they give it. So the federal application simply asks the question: are you a U.S. citizen? Yes or
I
no?
was just trying to be nice.
Right. So they don't speak English. If
they
they don't
pick,
speak
like,
English, they just
See,
fill that out.
See,
Right. The problem is, and we actually
Fresa.
have an education for those who are not wanting to vote, who are being added. If they're here legally,
Sure.
they're trying to become citizens, and they don't know that someone's voting for them because they filled out an application, turned in. We have a farmer. Here's an example. In Fresno County, we have a farmer who told us that someone came onto his farm and registered to vote 200 of his workers. They're here legally. They're on green cards. And they didn't know that they couldn't vote because he told them they had the right to vote because they're on green cards.
Sure.
He registers them to vote, and he comes back later with 2 weeks later with vote by mail ballots. And then he pulls them all together and he helps them vote.
Dude, the reality is, Ice, it doesn't even matter. Voter ID doesn't even fucking matter.
On that one, it doesn't.
No, and in period, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't fucking matter because they're gonna just do. If they're in charge of that state, they're not gonna let it up. And they have people. There's too many people getting fed.
Yeah.
There's too many families eating off of this.
And does this also
Because it
work?
keeps people cohesive for long periods of time. Like people like, all right, well, that's a Democrat, so they're gonna eventually just the next person that comes in will probably keep the staff, and they're worried like, oh, if it's Republican, they're gonna get rid of the staff, and then people's not gonna eat. We gotta do it for our jobs. We gotta do it for their family. It is that. That's what's happening, right? And mixed with power, right?
Can it also be the same for people that are not alive anymore?
Oh yeah. We that's when Judicial
That's
Watch.
been proven too.
That's when we sued the Secretary of State in LA County in 2017.
You sued them?
We sued them. We retained Judicial Watch. They looked at our work and they said, "Ma'am, this is real." So they said, "Do you want to sue the Secretary of State in LA County?" We said, "Absolutely." We sued them and won. So you'll see what we did. We sued the Secretary of State in LA County for violation of National Voter Registration Act Section 8, which requires them to maintain accurate voter rolls, and of course they didn't. So in the lawsuit, 4 organizations tried to add on to the lawsuit on behalf of Padilla, and we said, well, we told our attorneys, well, you might want to be aware that these 4 organizations are involved in voter registration fraud because we have documentation of that, where they take a person's name from the voter roll, fill out a voter registration application, and slightly change it. Instead of Linda Paine, they fill out the new one, Linda S. Paine. Instead of Linda Payne's real birthday, they change slight birth date. They still keep Linda Payne's address because you have to have a correct domicile, but they say send all the voting materials to this
That's
post
why
office box over here.
this is exactly
so Linda
why
Payne doesn't know about it.
when my wife got 3 different ones.
Yes.
Michelle, middle name was Michelle, then Marie, and then M.
That's right. That's how they do it.
Alana got 3.
That's how they do it. So when we retained Judicial Watch, we knew the organizations doing that because
I didn't even know that. That's now it connects it. I thought it was like, oh, they're gonna see us throw it away, get it out of the trash can, and that's what it was going in my head. I was like, oh, these slimy motherfuckers. Or they thought that like we're gonna be
Someone's
sleazy
dumpster
and do
diving
all
for
3
you.
of them.
Well, in 2016, we met Riverside County, their registrar of voters, their mayor. We had a whole team of their people that we brought 25 sets out of 200 sets that we have of the duplicated registrations, where we showed them, here's the real person's name, here's the duplicate. And oh, by the way, on this particular set, the fraudster actually signed with their own name. They decided not to fraudulently sign the voter's name. So that's how we knew it was a fraudulent one. But we asked them at that time, can we go after these people, and the organization that hired them to do that stamped their stamp on the hard copy registration duplicate. And what the DA told us at the time is they can't do anything about it. They can't go after it because this plan was the perfect plan for fraud, because they would both deny it and it would be like a he said, she said. So you'd go after the fraudster who signed instead of Linda Payne, John Doe. And John Doe would say, well, I was told to do that. I wasn't trying to commit fraud. And the organization would say,
they're
we would
writing
never
the
tell
law.
them to do
That's
that.
what they're doing. They're writing the law. They don't have to do shady is still shady.
Yeah.
And unless you're 100% guilty, that's when you get in trouble. But if you're like, well, I don't know.
That's exactly right.
Everyone
exactly
gets away
right.
with it.
Is it so?
You used to beat my ass, my dad. I tell him, you don't know? He would grab me by the neck. You don't know, fucker? Come here. And he would shove my face in poop. I was like, I didn't do it. It was the dog. And he was like, I know it was you. It was me. But how do you know? You know what I mean? He didn't believe me.
Where's your evidence?
Yeah.
When it comes down to, do we know who or what party is doing what? Is it both? Is it more one or the other?
Well, here's what we say, because in order to make a definitive statement on
Isaac,
that,
that's a dumb question.
no, it's not a dumb question.
In
because everyone
California, it's
asks-
a real dumb question.
no, it's across
When
the country.
does a Republican want anything in California?
Well, I'm talking about because they're having a network of everyone across. They're comparing notes.
Oh, Arnold. Oh, you're talking about just worldwide.
Or nationwide.
nationwide.
I'm just talking about
Nationwide.
nationwide. And so because there's different coalitions, like I didn't know there was like many like
There's
network.
different organizations.
So like
yeah.
for what you,
Because I bet you Texas could do it.
sure,
Because Texas has that big, strong control.
right.
I spoke in Texas, and they don't believe that they can fall because they don't. When I told them, you need to look at the laws in our Golden State agenda, and if these laws are being passed in Texas, you're next. And they said, no, that can't happen in Texas. But it is happening in Texas, because if they implement the California-style laws, they're putting in place the system that can be
So is
manipulated.
California the guinea pig for everyone
California's
else?
ground zero. California's ground. That's why I live in Texas.
Because it's so deep. The politics in California is so deep, even if they get caught, everybody will be
Well,
okay.
think about it. Like, think it also makes sense. If you can make the largest state the guinea pig, which is what 50 some odd electoral votes, if you can make that one the big one, right? Because California is
54,
huge.
right? 54
54.
electoral votes.
That's 10%, like you said right here, 10%, right? I read
Right.
it says 10% that's a huge chunk,
Right.
For a party member, a Democrat or Republican, to go in there. I mean, if Kamala doesn't have California, there's really no chance.
Right.
For any anybody.
But then if you notice, like, listen, Texas has control of the red.
Sure.
So why can't they be doing the same
What
shit?
if California starts influencing Texas, and now Texas has been red all the time, and it starts going blue?
It's going purple.
But what's going back to what I'm saying? Who is partaking more of the buffoonery is what I want to know. Is it a little bit of both? Is it one or the other?
Well, the thing is, when you look at when there's manipulation, look at who wins most of the time, because the manipulation that tells you who's benefiting most from it. So,
Because I mean, like I said, man, Kamala she won 9 states, all 9 of them no voter ID.
well, and there's so many ways to
And at this
manipulate
point-
the system.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, but what you're saying is it doesn't matter at this point,
Well, I mean, because what she's saying is the system's already there.
right?
So if the system's there, and part of that system is no voter ID.
Yeah.
That's right. That is correct.
So
That's part
if
of it.
you, so everybody, so it makes me wonder about those 9 states. Those 9 states all have no voter ID. She won all 9 of them.
Yeah.
Is that coincidence?
She didn't even win a swing state.
I mean, you have to win one. She didn't even come close.
Yeah.
So it is, you got to ask yourself on that note, how come she didn't win any other state without voter ID? Because she was a dumbass, dude. And people knew she was a fucking
She's
dumbass.
a loser. Man, this has been definitely a. I didn't know there was this corrupt, to be honest.
So in the handouts I gave you, what I want to tell you, so I want people to go away encouraged. So I
There's no way to fix this.
No, there is. Here's the thing. What it started in California. Now let's go back to the beginning of my story. 2008, Californians voted almost 65% to vote yes.
For Prop 8, right?
Prop 8,
Right.
marriage between a man and a
I
woman.
remember this one.
By 2010, 2 years later, all of a sudden now we're documenting that voting in person, in-person voters are being impersonated. And all of a sudden, boom, California casts 40% of all provisional ballots nationwide. They needed to get ballots into an envelope so they could figure out how to manipulate the ballot processing. That's the policy and procedures on that pillar. So then you fast forward to all the elections following, and then you see all the work that we've done. We have a civil rights hearing. Well, guess what happened at the civil rights hearing? Dr. Manerick, the regional commissioner for the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, came and heard the hearing. We had stacks of documentation on the staging area. We had 82 people testify. Other organizations testified as well. And Dr. Merrick was putting the report together for the Civil Rights Division, and boom, all of a sudden it's heavily redacted and buried, and he's fired. Then fast forward 2020, we send 3 letters to the Department of Justice with a serious complaint about the VoteCal database is being unreliable. It's not working properly. It's being manipulated. We send 3 letters. We don't hear anything back from him. All of a sudden we find out the packet we sent him is in his drawer, and he's resigned or fired. So there is a coordination. We saw it 2015 between what's happening with the deep state and what's happening in California. California is the largest state in the union, as you said. In California, the largest county, larger than 5 states. If the largest county and the largest state can be manipulated, then that pattern can be spread throughout the rest of the country, and the rest of the country can be eventually forcibly transformed into an oligarchical
This is why the
democracy.
state isn't a fucking piece of shit.
Right.
This is why there's homeless everywhere. This is why there's drug death. This is why the houses, every single shitty house costs over $1 million. This is why the gas is $1.56 more than all the rest of the states. Man, it's because of this. It's because of it's a mob.
It's
But
because
the thing
you
is,
can't
there's
choose.
no genius at the top of the mob.
It's a coordinated, right? It's not just a one person. It's an organized effort. Now,
It's organized, yeah.
here's the good thing.
There's people behind the scenes that are pulling strings. There's people, and it's a bunch of people.
But there's hope, Tim.
There-
Let Linda
but
tell you.
I
about
don't
hope.
even believe that.
Well, there is. Look at the document I gave you where we show you the advocacy. We have taken action for the last 14 years with lawsuits and civil rights hearing. We have done everything at every legal jurisdiction, and that's when we started the company. We brought on our board a retired attorney, a retired paralegal who actually helped develop the training material for paralegals in California. We started in the very beginning. They asked the question, what do we want to accomplish in starting this Observer Election Integrity Project? And we said we need to restore the ability to actually choose who represents us so that we can go back to governing as a republic. And they said you're going to have to be able to take your evidence through the courts, and they taught us how. And so our evidence went through the courts. So after 2020, we filed a constitutional challenge against all the laws in California saying they were unconstitutional because they were used to create a system that can manipulate the outcome of elections. And all the rest of the states who did that too, those cases fell through the cracks because they didn't have standing. We got standing. In 2022, the Ninth Circuit gave us standing because we had properly taken all of our evidence to every jurisdiction at the county first, then the state, then the Department of Justice, Department of Homeland. We went every angle, taking the evidence forward and being blocked. So the Ninth Circuit said we have standing to take our cases forward. The lower court, it went back to the lower court to say, look at the evidence. He said nothing but garden variety, nothing to see here. They didn't want to look at the evidence. They didn't look at one piece of paper. We went to the Ninth Circuit again. We challenged it. This time we had 3 judges, very far left, very far leaning. They said, no, we're going to go with the lower courts. Nothing but garden variety, nothing to see here. We asked for an en banc review in 2024, and we had to get 11 judges with the Ninth Circuit to look at the evidence. We couldn't get 11 judges. So the next step we had was, well, we could appeal to the United States Supreme Court in 2024. We decided not to. We decided not to because when you look at the document I gave you of all the steps we've taken to address the issues at the state level, we came to the conclusion that the state has been taken over. There is no option for citizens to redress their grievances to the government in
Because
the state of California.
they've already established their.
Because we've already proven it.
And what are you
We've
gonna do
done
about it, buddy?
Yeah.
So now we're going to Congress. The
All
next
these
step.
celebrities are here. They all say the same thing, so they got to be right. I mean, that's part of the plan.
Well, can't trust
So
them.
when the state doesn't listen, you take it to.
You take it to Congress.
Congress.
So what we're saying now to Congress is
So that's where we're at right now.
That's where we're at right now. So the citizens of California, let me tell you, the first thing that the media did to participate with this, back when they realized, oh my gosh, California woke up and they're starting to pay attention, starting to document this in 2010. You know what? California, they're a bunch of knuckleheads. They voted to destroy themselves. They're so stupid. They're born with a third eye. They're not really Americans. They love tyranny and they love living under destruction. And that propaganda has been pushed forward year after year after year. The fact is, you never see a more powerful group of warriors in the state of California. We have trained over 20,000 citizen observers in the state of California to observe the election process from 2012 all the way through 24. They get kicked in the teeth every time. We all do. We take this evidence forward as strong evidence, solid.
Well, I can imagine it's not even fun either.
Well,
If
it's
you're
not.
there, there's people there to oppose you.
Yeah, we've had death threats. Yeah,
I would imagine.
I'm sorry. But so what we have proven is California and states like California have gone rogue. We are not being governed according to the founders of this country as a republic. We have been duped with our elections process has been manipulated and turned into a tool for those to select who's going to rule and govern, and it's like a cancer going through the other states. So we have worked the last 7 months in writing a proposal to Congress, and you have one of your pages. I give you the first 3 pages of the proposal, where we are saying to Congress, the Election Integrity Project and our attorneys, advocates for faith and freedom, have come to the conclusion that the citizens of California are not able to redress their grievances to government. We have tried. We've gone to every level. And when that happens, Congress has the responsibility to take action. And they have already overseen the states. The Constitution says, let me back up. The Constitution says that the determination for elections belongs to the states. They determine date, time, and manner. And so these are the date, time, and manner laws that the California put in place. You find them in the Golden State Agenda. Those determination of date, time, and manner have created a system that is being manipulated. When that happens, Congress has to step in and override that. Now, Congress has already done that 3 times. First, during the Civil War time period, they had to override what was in the original Constitution, that the states determine date, time, and manner. In those early years, the new states had to vote for members of Congress and for the president. But date, time, and manner didn't always land on even the same month. One did it this month, another this month. Sometimes they're 3 months apart. So by the Civil War time period, I forget the date, but it's in our proposal, Congress said, you know what, this isn't working. We got to be able to know when we're changing hands from one
Are
president
they
to
going to
another.
hear you guys?
They already have.
Oh,
So
you guys already
yeah,
spoke.
we already give a copy to Mike Johnson. But let me just tell you, so you know that precedence has been set already. Congress can do this, because that's going to be the question. Can they override the states? In the same line that says it belongs to the states, it says, comma, but Congress has the authority to take action when it goes rogue. So during the civil rights time period, they took action, and they determined that the first Tuesday of November every 2 years is when the states will determine president and Congress. Also, in the last 33 years, they passed the National Voter Registration Act and the Help America Vote Act. Once again, Congress stepped in to bring some kind of standardization to the states, but they sort of screwed up because NVRA Section 7 doesn't require citizenship.
Are they going to give it a committee?
Here's what we have so far. At the end of May, we submitted our proposal to Mike Johnson. Our lead attorney, Advocates for Faith and Freedom, went to school with Mike Johnson. There's REN. By God's grace, I'll tell you, there it is.
Because what it's going to look like, the optics of this are Republicans are just trying to get control of California. That's the listen.
Well,
I know I'm not saying you are a Republican. I'm not casting stones.
that-
But I mean, wouldn't you think that was what the optics would be, or how people would want to look at it?
Well, they're going to be like that. We're going to have to fight back because that's how they fight. That's, Sun Tzu, anyone who knows competition.
Art of war.
Art of war. Let's just say chess. All right, let's go simple, not war. I'm playing chess with you. I better know how he plays. I better know his strategies, his tactics, so that I know how to move my pieces. And if he doesn't know how I'm going to move my pieces, I can beat him.
I'm glad you said
It's always
chess, not checkers.
Chess, you got to think. Checkers just move fast. But we have to think. And we, the people, have been doing this for 14 years, and we have documented the issue. So anyone can say anything they want, but we can show the evidence.
When you say that, you show them the voters and all this stuff. There's facts. Like, you can show, like, there's going to be people that
I
are going
know,
to say,
but dude, there's facts with Jeffrey Epstein, and look what we're up against.
that's something.
but
That's not. No, that is something, dude. That's fucking kids getting fucking hurt.
They're working on that.
Are they though?
Do they
Because
have?
it made it look like they didn't give a shit last week.
Well, now they are. Well, you have to keep pressing, bro. You have to keep
Like,
pressing.
you literally have people on film stuffing ballot boxes. No one gave a fuck.
You know what it comes down to? We learned early on that there are legal terms and legal requirements that have to be met in order to take action. First thing we learned is they told us don't use the word fraud because fraud is a legal term. You have to be able to prove intent. It's very difficult to prove intent. So we don't say there's voter fraud, even though we know there's voter fraud. We say we have proven that the system. We don't even say that the system can and is being manipulated, and that's the facts. We can prove those facts. When the system can be manipulated, that means we've lost our ability to choose.
See, and that's a little bit easier for
So
people
that's-
to stomach. Than
that's
saying,
chess.
Yeah. See, boom.
Okay.
That's
That's
a little bit.
chess.
So when you present it as it's not just a Democrat doing it. It could be anybody. The system that's in place is made to be.
It's flawed. Can we fix it?
It's supposed to be a vault. Yes, we can. What we proposed, I've given you a little card.
Yes. The 17?
Yeah, we have proposed to Congress 70 points. We gave it to Mike Johnson at the end of May, and we said it's 90% finished. But the reason it took us so long to put it together is all the evidence that we have. As we wrote the proposal, I had to cite the evidence to point to prove the point we're making,
Sure.
where the laws are being manipulated. And because we have the evidence, in fact, we have the best evidence in the country. No organization in the country has the depth and breadth of the evidence that Election Integrity Project California has.
This is why I wanted to get her on. So
All right. Well, let me give you guys a plug, and let me read the 17 steps.
Okay.
All right.
Change the
Require
camera.
absolute Transparency of the entire election process. Require proof of citizenship to register to vote. Require government-issued voter ID to register to vote. Resolve the inconsistencies regarding voting from overseas. Update National Voter Registration Act. Update Help America Vote Act. Create a federal managed voter database. Prohibit top two primaries. I don't know that one. Prohibit ranking choice voting. Oh, you're saying that only Republican, Democrat, and that's all you have to choose from?
The top two primary was changed in 2012. It used to be, and in this top two primary is unconstitutional. It used to be any group of people could decide, here's what we believe, and we want to have a party that represents us. Greenpeace, Independent,
Tea
you
Party.
name it. When they passed the top two, they said only these two parties, top parties, can actually be on the ballot. And they did that because it's much harder to manipulate a system that has multiple representatives. So they moved it into the top two primaries. So now only Democrat and Republican run. And then when you can manipulate the system, you end up getting two Democrats.
Doesn't Elon want to do
Another third party.
a third party?
The American Party.
That's like, I'm gonna buy a baseball team. I'm gonna name it the baseball team.
That's a good one.
Limit the number of days of walk-in early voting. Eliminate no excuse voting by mail. Prohibit most election technology. Require watermarks and ballots. Prohibit same-day registration. Prohibit acceptance of late ballots. Prohibit ballot harvesting and unstuffed monitored ballot drop boxes. Prohibit pre-registration of minors. That's and you can, if you want any more information on this, you can go to www right here. I'm gonna put it down here, but www.eip/ca.com.
I'm surprised that you didn't make the vote that day a national holiday, so everyone just gets off and they could just do it in one day, and there's no excuses. You get the day off, you're paid or whatever, and you just go vote.
Well, the only reason we didn't suggest that is because who gets hurt is a small business.
No,
Because they have to close. So what we found through our 14 years of research is that people do need a couple of extra days, and we're recommending only 4 days: a Saturday, Sunday, Monday before election day, and election
get
day.
your little pre-insures in.
So
yeah.
if you're working, and this happened to me, my mom was very sick, and I missed being able to vote one day. We had to take her to the emergency room. So if you just have one day, there's any kind of emergency, you don't get to vote.
Yeah.
And some people say, but I work during the week and I can't get off, but can you go on the weekend? So if it's a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and
makes sense.
Tuesday, that's enough time to go to the polls and vote. But definitely, we have so much documentation about how easy it is to manipulate the vote by mail. In fact, we documented that the ballot harvesting targets vulnerable populations like seniors and homeless and non-citizens. They get them a ballot, they get them to vote. In fact, because of our evidence in 2020, Landmark Legal Foundation asked us to work with them to file an amicus brief regarding a lawsuit out of Arizona. Arizona tried to pass a law that say no ballot harvesting in Arizona. They were immediately sued, went through the process, and in 2020, they were going before the United States Supreme Court. And because we were the only organization in the country that has evidence that ballot harvesting targets vulnerable populations, we worked with Landmark Legal to write that amicus. There were 24 amicus briefs submitted to the United States Supreme Court. We were the only ones with evidence showing that the Navajo Nation would be considered a vulnerable population, just like what we see in California. And ballot harvesting would allow people to go to them, take their ballots, and what we saw in California is toss the ballots in the trash.
All right. Well, I'm not trying to make this extra long, but there is something. Fuck. What do I want to say? To wrap it up. I think that I agree with most of this, but I think that we're missing out on something. I think that the way we're going as a society is more of a electronic based, and especially with I think the banking industry is about to change. We're on the precipice of it changing. Like we're already past no return with that situation, because they're already moving over to the Ripple instead of Swift system. and that's gonna just immediately. I think that eventually we're gonna have some sort of ID within ourselves, you know,
Get out of here with the mark of the beast, sir.
something like that. I don't know, but
Rebuke you.
I'm not sure how safe these can be electronically, but I think we're about to go there. I think that's and I think that's where you're gonna run into trouble. I think people that are gonna be a part of that committee might be people who are pro crypto or pro where they want everything to be paperless, a paperless society. And I think that's gonna be the biggest struggle for this.
It may be better. We have a 28-page report that we provided to them. In fact, it's our Ventura team. Most of them are in technology, and we studied the Dominion machine and many of the Heart machines. So those machines are owned by foreign organizations. They got a contract to sell and use the company here. Bottom line, we've proven that part of the issue with the machines is they are proprietary. So, for instance, when we worked with Ventura County, we asked to see their contract and how they use the machine, and they said they can't give it to us. It's proprietary. So, so what it means is even some of the information, the registrars of voters can't look at it. When you vote with a machine, the owners of Dominion have access to who voted. It goes to that country.
Yeah.
So if there's going to be a machine, it surely cannot be the technology that we're
that
using
we have
now.
right now at all.
It
Period.
doesn't work. So if they're going to come up with something else, they're
With the
I think at this
database,
point,
I think that the
Congress has to
database
prove
is.
Yeah.
Do you run it against the database? Do you is there a website you check to make sure that you voted the right? I don't know. But I just think that I want to wrap it up, but make it. I think you're going to encounter that problem. You're going to encounter those people, and I don't know. Like, can you pivot for that? Is there something you can do is there a compromise? I don't know. But
They're fighting the good fight, though.
we appreciate your fight. I served, and so when I see people fighting the way I fought, maybe not the same way, but fighting for something I love, it's like someone taking interest in your kid. You know what I mean? In my opinion, and I appreciate that, and it means a lot to me.
Well,
Thank
it's
you.
my honor. It's my honor.
Well, is there any last words that you would like to say?
Well, when we're going to provide this hopefully to Congress next week, we have our part done where we've laid out the evidence and document. Our attorney's now putting together a legal brief, giving Congress the jurisdictional justification that they can take this action to supersede and override the mess that states like California have created, and instead create a standardized system throughout the country so that all states have to follow the same laws and the same procedures. When we put that out, when it goes to Congress, it'll go to the committee. The committee will look at it. It'll go to Congress. It'll go to the Senate. But we think what has to happen is the citizens of every state, and especially the state legislators who have lost the ability to truly govern, are going to need to reach out to Congress and say, we need you to do this. We need a standardized system that cannot be manipulated. So it's going to be a fight. We know it will. We think the Senate will push back the hardest. But we have an understanding that so far Congress is on board.
There's a
with-
bunch of
with trying to
dipshits in the
address this
Senate,
stuff.
though.
Yeah.
There's a
But
bunch
it's-
of them.
But
On
I
both
think
sides.
I think especially for California, where we've lost the ability in California to redress our grievances because they don't care. So they need to now reach out to Congress and the state legislators in California that might care, and ask those state legislators to reach out to Congress and say, we need help here.
Bro,
If you build a TikTok account, I guarantee you people would follow this. Like if you just talked and like gave updates on what's happening, you can build on TikTok. I guarantee you'll be able to build an army.
Yeah.
Because this is there's a lot of people out there on both sides that believe what you're saying, and you did this whole interview and you haven't batted an eye on what side of the fence you're on, and I think that you're a good spokesman for it. Like if you talk to people on TikTok, I think it can help you grow.
Thanks. I think we'll do that because this is for all Americans. It's about that's why we started it. As an American, we have the right to choose, and when we don't get to choose, we have an oligarchical democracy, and that's tyranny.
And you know what's crazy? That people they'll do whatever it takes to just get on Gavin Newsom, huh? And you're like, yeah, he's great. He's the most amazing governor ever.
Well, when you get recalled,
I love him.
You get recalled so many times, and then like you realize, well, no wonder he keeps winning
People
the recalls
glaze that guy
because
man.
the system's all messed up.
That's right.
All right.
He should
Well,
have been done so many. I don't know.
anyways, dude, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
You're welcome.
For making
Thank
the
you.
time.
We appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
for
having me.
chatting us up, and this is a beautiful thing, and we support you.
I appreciate that.
All right, we'll fade to black. The crowd goes ape shit, and we're out of here. As they say in Canada, peace out.
That's it.
All right.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll try to find you water, but we.